Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to welcome you. It's my role in these evenings to try to frame the debate, give the reasons why we thought this was a worthwhile topic. So let me start out by saying that, just giving you a fact, in 2006, which was the last year before the financial crisis started to unfold, financial companies earned about 43% of all the profits earned by the Standard & Poor's 500. Well, that seems extraordinary when you think about the size of the financial sector. And how is that possible? Well, it turns out that those profits, to a large degree, were illusory. It was almost like there was a giant Ponzi scheme going on, where financial institutions were selling assets to each other at ever higher prices, ever greater degrees of leverage. And among those assets were about $6 trillion in structured securities. Now, structured securities business is a construct of the rating agencies, who, through the alchemy of their own logic, have turned the dross of subprime mortgages and other dodgy credits into the gold of AAA securities. The big five investment banking firms at the beginning of 2007 had total assets of $4.3 trillion. To put that in perspective, the national budget of the United States in those years was about $3 trillion. They were leveraged greater than 30 to 1. Their assets were long-term in nature, frequently quite risky, frequently illiquid, and they were financed with mostly liabilities payable on demand. Most of the managements of these institutions were completely incapable of managing the risks that their firms were assuming. Now, turning to the commercial banks, think about Chuck Prince, the CEO of Citicorp. He ignored the storm warnings as he steered Citicorp onto the rocks with his infamous quote, "As long as the music is playing, you've got to get up and dance." Okay, so why blame Washington for this mess? Well, there are a number of plausible reasons. First, the Fed supplied way too much credit and way too little supervision. It allowed banks to assume off-balance sheet liabilities and contingent obligations with no disclosure and with no capital requirements. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac led a headlong push to extend home ownership to Americans who were clearly unqualified financially to own their own homes. The SEC allowed the investment banking firms to triple their leverage, and this was only about 5 years ago. And the regulators put the force of law behind rating agency judgments so that their mistakes were not just private sector actors making mistakes, but had huge systemic consequences. And finally, nobody stepped up to provide the most elementary safeguards for credit default swaps. And that is the mechanism by which so many financial institutions are tied to each other. And it's the mechanism that has created so much of a domino effect in our financial system. So there is a lot of blame to go around. And to help sort out who deserves more blame, we have an outstanding panel tonight, and I think we're in for a very exciting and elucidating evening.